Hello and welcome to the transcription explanation of this design. This design is deceptively tricky to read because I use all of the rules in the script, especially with the letter stacking, because I really wanted to get each word to connect up very nicely to make these nice concentric circles going around each word and also make it look contained and fluid, and like the example from the show in Demons Run When a Good Man Goes to War on the doctor's cot. So anyway, I kind of pull out all the stops as far as using the start indicators and then the rotation and yada yada. I'll get into that when I get into that. Typically, you read this script starting at the bottom and then you go counterclockwise and you spiral outer to inner. So this would typically be the first word you read, but this one is really tricky to read. So I'm actually going to start with this one, which is much simpler than the rest, and there's a lot less going on, as you can probably see. So this word, the start indicator is right here. So instead of starting at the bottom, which would be this letter, we start at the start marker, because if there's a start marker, you start there. So here's where we start reading, because that is the start here marker. And then we hit our first letter stem, and it is this deep divot shape, like this. And this deep divot shape means our letter is going to be somewhere in this row. And to figure out which of these letters it is, we have to look at the modifiers. And there are some dots with this letter. There are 3 dots, making it a D, because a D's got 3 dots. 1, 2, 3 dots. If it only had 2 dots, it'd be a CH. But it's a D, because it's got 3 dots. So, this guy here, this open circle, like all of these other ones here, those are all vowels. Vowels are smaller than consonants, and they have different positions depending on what vowel they are and if they're attached onto our consonant stems. So this guy is attached onto our consonant stem. So we're going to look at this guy here, like this, like a bead on a string. It is not in the open space in the middle, and it's not outside our word circle, it's right there. So it's this brown one, which is an O. So we have a D and an O. I'm actually going to go ahead and get my typing tool. We're going to get rid of our stroke. There we go. So we have a D and an O, and then here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 dots, so we're in this column, and this is a completed circle letter stem. So it's this one because it's inside our word circle. So here's the word circle line, and this one would be the letter C. And then we continue around to this letter, which is a shallow divot. Somebody took a bite out of a cookie, and I used these shallow divot stems to connect up all of our words. So that would be a T because there are no dots next to it. Then we have this letter, and it is another vowel because it's small, and it's not stuck onto any of the consonants. It's just by itself, and it is inside our word circle. So that would make it another O. And then this last letter here is a shallow divot with 1, 2, 3 dots. So 3-dot column. Shallow divot row makes that an R. So there we have the word doctor. This one here. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to the bottom one, which is quite a bit trickier because all of the letters are stacked. The first thing you'll notice is that there isn't a start marker, and that's because this one is kind of all one letter stacked on top of each other. So in Amelia, which is what this says, A-M-E-L-I-A, we have vowels A, E, and I, and an A. And we have consonants M and L. And consonants M and L are in the same row. And letter stacking, letters with the same stem can be stacked. So everything in this row has the same stem. So we have the vowels plus these letters. They can all be stacked. And when you read them, you read thin to thick. So we have different line thicknesses here. We have thick lines, and thicker lines, and then thin lines. So the thin ones are going to be read first before the thick ones. Oh, consonants are read before vowels. That rule, you do it first. And then you read thin to thick. And then same thickness is same letter. So you'd put them in the same position. And then each slash through a vowel moves it up 1 letter in the stack. So we have these 2 vowels with slashes. So this would be moved up twice. And then this one would be moved up once. So anyway, let's go ahead and get to reading this. So step 1 is figuring out what letters we have to play with and then ordering them. So we have, this is a guy outside our word circle. So here's our word circle. This is the sentence circle. It's where we put punctuation, like that stuff. And then we have two A's, two circles outside the word circle. We have an A there and an A there. We're going to make that A and that A. And then we have this vowel, which has a line going inwards towards the middle of our word. And when there's a vowel with a line going towards the middle, that would be an I. So, I. Ooh. I is this guy right here. And then this is a vowel that is completely inside our word circle and our letter stem. So like this here, inside our letter stem. And that makes it an E. So let me grab this. So this guy is an E. And I just... E. So those are our vowels. We've got a couple A's, an E, and an I. Okay, now we have our consonants. So there are two consonants. One is thin and one is thick. And this thin one on the outside has some lines on it. And we count lines where they end on a letter stem. So line modifiers count where they end on a letter stem. So we have 1, 2, this one passes through, so it doesn't count, 3 lines. So we have a total of 3 lines, and that makes it an M. And then we have this thick one, which has 1, 2, 3 dots. So vowels can never have dots, so these dots have to go with the consonant, and a 3-dot circle inside the word circle is an L. So I'm going to put the L with the dots. Okay, so those are the letters we have to play with. So let's go through our rules. So we have all of these letters all in a jumble, and we know that consonants are read before vowels. So we're going to grab the L, which is this inside one, and we're going to bring them to the front, in front of the A, E, I, and other A. And then we read thin to thick. So we have the L, which is the one with the dots. That one's the thick one. So the M goes in front of the L. And then these vowels, we have these two, oops. We have these two vowels with the same thickness, so we'll just put them right on top of each other. And then we have this I, which is kind of a medium thickness. And then we have this A, which is super thick. Okay, now we have the slashes. So, each slash through a vowel moves it up 1 letter in the stack. So, this A has 2 slashes, so it goes up 1, 2 spaces. This E has 1 slash, so it goes up 1 space. And then we have A, M, E, L, I, A, like we're supposed to. So that's a really tricky letter stacking name. And let me put these vowels back. Boom, boom. If I were to be looking at this E first, it's important that you put vowels on top of each other, or like in the same position. Because right now these are, if they didn't have slashes, they would be ambiguous as to what we would read first. So they're like effectively in the same position because they're the same thickness. So we have an E and an A in the same position. And if you moved like the E up 1 space, we have 1, 2 spaces. You could make it look like M-A-E. L-I-A, if you did them kind of one at a time, which is why it's important to move them both like at the same time relative to the M and L. How do I make this clearer? Okay, so these vowels don't have an order right now, and they don't have an order in which they move forward. So if you look at just M, L, and then the E and A together, This E needs to move up 1 space, so you put 1 slash in it. This A needs to move up 2 spaces, so you put 2 slashes in it. It's hard to explain, but yeah, that's how it works. So that's why we move the A up 2 spaces and the E up 1 space. And that's how you can stack Amelia all as one word. Well, all as one letter. So, yeah, it's complicated. And that's why I typically don't do this style as kind of like a right off the bat style, because if I can make something that's simple with each letter as a normal letter, then I'll do that without playing with the funky word order. The rest of them aren't that bad. This is the only other one with some letter stacking. Okay, so let's move on. This is Amelia. Amelia's tricky. A, E, I, L, M, and then you do lots of funness to make all of them in the right order. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to this word here. So this word, we start at our start marker. So we start with this letter, which is a shallow divot, and this line passes through it, so it doesn't count. This line counts here, where it ends. So this is just a letter T with no modifiers. Even though there's dots kind of close to it, these dots are actually closer to this divot than this divot. So these are all shifted up a tiny bit. So then we have an A outside our word circle, just like this A between our word circle and our sentence circle. And then we have another shallow divot. And this shallow divot has those dots I was talking about earlier. There's 1, 2, 3 of them. So those 3 dots make it an R. Then we have a D, 1, 2, 3 dots on a deep divot, just like this D in doctor. And then we have another I, line going inwards towards the middle of our word circle, just like this I here. And then we have this shallow divot, just like these other 2 shallow divots, except this one has 1, 2, 3 lines ending on it. So this ring here is just the lines coming from the S. And lines can count for multiple letters or the same letter twice, and they can curve, loop, and form other shapes. So yep, this is a perfectly valid way of doing S. So Tardis. And then last but not least, let me write that in English. Tardis. And then we have this word here, which we start here, and we have this shallow divot. And if we look closely and we were to imagine that this circle wasn't here, because this is all inside this word circle, so we ignore, everything outside it that isn't part, like this sentence circle doesn't count for this word circle, but this just lines up with the sentence circle, and it's just another arc. It's a double shallow divot stem. So instead of a double circle inside the word circle stem, so this is a circle inside the word circle, this double shallow divot stem are 2 letters in this row. So we have the thin one here with 1, 2, 3 lines on it. So that thin one, which you read thin to thick, that thin one is an S. And then we have this thick one, which has 1, 2 lines on it, making it a W. So we have the SW stacked. And I tried to make the lines with their line thickness match what line they count on. So the thin ones, the 3 thin ones count on the first letter, and then the 2 thick ones count on the second letter. So anyway, SW, and then we have an E on the line of the word circle. Another E done exactly the same. A T, which is a shallow divot with no lines ending on it. Again, all of these lines pass through it, so they don't count. Another I, line going inwards towards the middle. And then another E, just like those 2 other E's. So SW stacked on top of each other, EETIE. And then when you requested the quote, I saw you did have punctuation noted, that you had like commas between everything. I could put those commas there. They would look like completed circles that were filled in. So here's a comma, and they would look like this. They would just we put a comma on each of our circles. So that would be commas. I don't really like that look of commas between every word. I feel like it kind of breaks it. Like, I don't like even the duplication of using the start symbol all the time, and I tend not to use that if I don't have to, because I don't like sameness in designs. Anyway, so this start marker is optional if it's red bottom counterclockwise. You only put this here if it's a weird design that has things that don't start at the bottom. So yeah. Anyway, that's that design. I rambled a little bit. I hope that it makes a bit of sense, and I hope you like your design. Thank you.